StaplesBiz Chat with Staples Business Advantage. Practical advice and ideas to help your organization. Welcome to this episode of the BIZCHAT podcast. I'm Karen Pluthrow. In this podcast, we will discuss what's new in office furniture and workplace design, and how it impacts employee productivity and creativity. We are also going to talk about how manufacturers are keeping up with customer needs and requirements. Joining us in this podcast is Jenna Sweeting, an A&D representative who works on providing furniture solutions for their clients at Global Furniture. We also have Annie Bergeron, a design principal with Gensler, who has over 25 years of design experience, including thought leadership. And lastly, we have Sandra Weiss from Staples Business Advantage, who manages furniture sales strategy and leads the furniture sales teams nationally across Canada. So what designs are we seeing in the workplace from an office furniture perspective?
Well, as a design principal at Gensler, I'm really privileged because we work with international clients, so we see design trends in furniture emerge really early on. And I would tell you the main thing that we're seeing right now is that furniture needs to be varied to offer choice, but also needs to be able to support laptop work anywhere you go. So even if it's a lounge type setting, the seat height and the table height need to be in the proper relationship so that people can still be really productive. But offering choice and really different types of furniture really help create those environments that give you a lot of choice. So a lot more varied furniture, a lot less just workstations, and a lot more ancillary product that we're seeing generally in the workplace.
Okay, so you touched on variation, but how do you keep up with, and I think this is for all of you, how do you keep up with the changing needs of our customers or of your customers?
Yeah, I think from a Staples Business Advantage perspective, it's around educating ourselves what's happening in the design industry as far as trends and also what products are available. And another piece that we're finding really, really important is budget. So regardless of budget, being able to offer those solutions that create those same environments.
Right.
Yeah.
And also from the furniture manufacturing perspective, being in contact with our design partners, because you guys are coming up with these really fabulous, innovative, collaborative areas. So it's important to take that knowledge back to our product development team to ensure we're creating the products that you and your customers want to specify.
And can a well-designed office space allow employees or associates to be productive in the design world?
Oh, absolutely. So Gensler is the world leader in primary design research. We've been running surveys for the last 20 years. We've had over 400,000 respondents. So our earlier surveys really measured effectiveness. How well does your workplace support the things that you need to do? And then we pushed the research further, and then we started including experience. How can you measure experience, and does a good experience help productivity? So then last year we came up with our survey called the WPIX, which includes effectiveness and experience. And companies that have in the top quartile excellent effectiveness and excellent experience at work, their engagement scores go through the roof. And that's really important. This engagement score is really important to measure because we have not tied it to productivity, but Gallup has been doing research from the other end. So tying engagement to productivity, to higher profits and so on. So we see that when our workplaces translate into higher engagement, Gallup comes and finishes our research and shows us that these environments are not only more productive for the employees, but are also a lot more profitable.
Okay. Now, what about in the design sector when it comes to small, medium, and large size companies? Are you seeing a change or any differentiation in design with small, medium, and large organizations?
I have found that it doesn't really matter the scale of the operation, but every business wants to create a really beautiful office space that their employees want to come to work in. So personally, I have not seen that difference between those those sizes of organizations.
What about you, Sandra?
No, I don't see really. It kind of goes back to my one answer before, is that everyone's looking for the same opportunity within their space and allowing their associates that flexibility. And sort of what we say in our world is to work where you want, when you want, and offering that flexibility for their associates to do so.
Okay, and what about for you, Annie? Are you finding anything?
Well, our large clients that have corporate real estate departments tend to be perhaps a little bit more sophisticated as buyers because they oversee such large amounts of real estate, right? We're currently working with a client that when the project is built, they'll have almost 2 million square feet of real estate. So strategizing on what to buy, where to buy, how to create this variety, but yet leverage all kinds of flexibility and all kinds of similar aspects. That's, these clients understand it at a corporate real estate level and at an enterprise level. So there are different customers. The small customer, to echo what Sandra was saying, and also Jenna, is that they're also looking for this, but often they need to be educated a little bit more by the designer. And I mean this in the nicest, actually, kind of way, not in a condescending manner. But we bring them along, we show them the latest trends, and they're really eager to learn what we have learned from all of our other clients. And come on, everybody wants a workplace where they can attract and retain.
Absolutely. Now, Sandra, what does Staples Business Advantage offer insofar as solutions for organizations when it comes to, productive workspaces, collaborative workspaces?
For us, it's really, again, around variety. So it's around offering products and solutions that hit every budget and also helping them with their brand and what do they want their space to look like. But really, it's about having multiple manufacturers that can create the solutions. And really, rather than always just working with one manufacturer, it's allowing that flexibility to make sure that we are putting solutions in that meet their needs and we're not sort of just focused on one solution.
Okay. And what about for global? Are we going to be seeing any new trendy products coming up, solutions coming up in 2020?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So one of the key pieces about providing new fabulous products that our customers and designers are going to want to specify is always having something new in the hopper. So we do have a few things that I'm really excited about. We have a new desking line that is going to be launched called Corby in laminate, and it kind of echoes those mid-century modern lines that we've been seeing, and it's going to be at a fabulous price point. To complement that, we also have launched a lounge series called Drift, which is a really nicely echoes the mid-century modern looks. And to support the various collaborative spaces that we've all been talking about, our lounge series called River is going to be launched in the summer, and it is a line extension of the original River. We're expanded the applications for where River can go, and we've added in some media credenzas to support those alternate types of workspaces.
Okay.
I think one thing I'd like to add to what I was saying is we're also even looking in the transactional space. So going online and buying online, and that we're introducing products within that space that are on trend, that can create those spaces at that really the price point that we need, and also as quickly as we need. We're also seeing a trend that people need to change their workspaces very, very quickly. And maybe they don't want to spend as much on furniture, but maybe they want to spend it on other areas or technology. And so we're bringing solutions in that space as well. So,
and what are those brands, if you can elaborate on those?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a brand that's under our Union and Scale brand called Lewis. And it's got some great pieces that you can put together really quickly and configure it online. And we have another great brand called Mid-Mod. And it speaks to exactly the same as you just said, Jenna. So that mid-century, very limited, but creates that space that people are looking for.
Yeah. And those online digital tools are great for designers. Designers love them. We go in and we can configure and we know exactly. Even better if we can take, if they're in Revit, let's say, and we can bring them right in the model, because then the client in our 3D, they can see actually the product in situ within our renderings.
What is Global doing to ensure products are being brought into the market from an A&D perspective?
So whenever we're developing a new product, we always have a really fabulous product development team, whether that's an internal designer or if we're working with an external industrial design house. We also host focus groups to ensure that the product that we think is the answer is actually what our customers need. And even after products are launched, if we do get feedback about things that should be changed, we have no problem going back to product development and rejigging whatever it is it needs to change.
I think that's really important. And does furniture play a role in creating workplace ecosystems to promote innovation?
Oh, absolutely. We're really careful because when you're creating an ecosystem, you have to make sure that you're balancing the environment. So it's not only about having open focus desks, it's also having enclosed focus, enclosed collaborative, and open collaborative. And really, we go to different organizations, and that's when we get to know them, that's when we know how to balance how much of which space we can do, right? And we can provide for them.
Okay.
So absolutely.
And when designing an office space, what are some of the most important considerations that are really overlooked, not only by companies or designers? What is usually overlooked?
So in my experience, the biggest thing that is overlooked is actually sometimes hiring a designer. I sometimes see customers taking on really complex design projects without the assistance of a designer. And
so they're really important.
yes, they're very important to include in the process.
I think, Annie, you hit on it in one of our earlier responses when you're talking about these large customers and they have a lot of real estate and they are working with designers, they are working with change managers, they're definitely working with the consultants. What happens, I see the same thing, as maybe they're a one-time buyer or their spend isn't significant, so they don't feel that they need one, but the end result really is significant when you utilize the designers. Absolutely. Okay. Really ties everything together for them. Yeah.
Well, because the design is not only in how it looks and feels, the design is the intelligence that is built into the solutions that we provide.
Okay. And then over the years, open and flexible workplaces are trending, from what I understand. How do we create flexible workplaces?
Well, I think you give technology. So I would say technology is first. And that's been really one of the main factors in how we've seen this disruption. So I was joking earlier, I think when I was speaking to one of you, that, my CPU used to be the size of a bus and my monitor used to be 2.5 foot deep. And the furniture solutions reflected this technology. Today, from these, two massive pieces of equipment, I can do everything I was doing back then on my phone now. Really, at work, it's really convenient to have 2 screens and so on. But those screens are super thin, they're super small, and the CPU has been replaced with a laptop, which allows us to work anywhere, anytime. So I think that technology, and it's allowed for the individual footprint of a workstation and so on to go smaller. It's also allowed for digital storage, right? Technology. So we no longer have 2 or 3 filing cabinets. So although it looks like the footprint per person has diminished, technology's been the driver of that of that reduction. That space, in many, many cases, is given back to what we call other spaces or we spaces. So enclosed collaborative, open collaborative, and so on. So I would say that that's the first. Technology is the first factor that has led to these new workplaces where people now have the choice to go and do whatever they want, wherever they want. You're a lot more mobile.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. The one thing that I'm seeing is the stand-up desks. What is your opinion on those, and what are you seeing that based on a trend?
I would say every customer who visits the global showroom is interested in a sit-stand desk. They don't always ultimately go with that solution, but it's always at the table from day one.
I would say that sit-stand desks are almost indispensable if you are going to do an environment where people are unassigned. So, because it allows the users to adjust the height of the desk according to their height. So I'm 5'2", so of course, I need it to be lower. One of my coworkers is over 6 feet, right? And she needs it a lot higher. Right? So we could not share the same desk. So if the desk was at 29 inches, as regular desks are, people like me typically are accommodated with ergonomic tools, which is great. But if a desk is unassigned, it's very important. And I see that that's one of the main reasons that people use this flexibility is for they're seated. That they can stand is just a bonus.
Right. That's a really good point.
Yeah. And we're seeing them integrated in space a little differently. I know you're talking about whether it's unassigned, but we're also seeing sometimes it's applied where it is assigned, but want to provide that option. So they're putting some of them somewhere, whether it's looking at a window, so they're providing them in the space and offering that flexibility a little bit differently.
Okay. Yeah. How do we keep up with fast furniture, kind of like fast fashion?
I feel like it's really a question of value. Fast furniture is here today and gone tomorrow. Whereas if you buy a well-made, moderately priced piece of furniture, it will last you through the years, through moves and reconfigurations. So I think it really depends on the customer's goals, I suppose. do they need furniture tomorrow, or did they hire a designer? And they're working through the process.
We rarely, we do not specify anything that is not commercial grade. It's surprising. End users sometimes think they can bring in some cool looking piece of residential grade furniture, and we get a call within 6 months. The wear and tear in commercial spaces is so extreme, people have no idea. And so really we always recommend at least commercial grade furniture for sure. It's also a matter of environmental impact.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we recommend products that are durable for absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think, too, it's important that they understand the safety of their associates and that are moving into that space, that it's not tested for that type of space. To your point, it's not going to last. And we want to make sure that we're educating our customers so they're making the right decisions.
Okay. So, Jenna, in creative space workspaces, tell us what has changed from a manufacturer's perspective.
Okay. So in the 90s, I'm told office furniture was very expensive. There was high end and there was very low end. But then a lot of players came in and what they developed the mid-market. And these people who were up selling at the top of the range realized they needed to bring their price points down to that mid-market level so they were much more competitive. So I would say that's the big change. But to take a step back, manufacturers still need to create a quality product. It still needs to be attractive, and it still needs to be at a competitive price point. I think even in the 90s, they probably thought they were doing that. They just needed a bit of a reality check maybe once the 2000s rolled in.
Okay. And what are the main disrupting factors and trends in workplace design that you're seeing in the industry?
So again, Gensler is set up in practice areas. So one of the practice areas I lead is technology. So I do a ton of work with technology companies. And as you know, they've been on the leading edge, and they're the ones who have been disrupting this entire industry because a lot of companies then adopt. So they fail fast. They try stuff, fail fast, but whatever is successful then gets adopted by other companies. So financial services companies are starting to change and so on and so forth. So we see the wave backwards to all the other ones. So the main trends that we're seeing that have been really disrupting the way we design workplaces, therefore the way we specify furniture for these workplaces, is really it's 4 main points. It's about choice, balance, and focus. So we've talked about this a little bit earlier in the podcast. Offering choice, offering a really good balance of how much of what we provide, and not forget about focus. So our very latest research still says that focus spaces, we're still not quite offering enough focus space in workplace environments.
What do you mean focus space? Can you elaborate
heads
on that?
down. So where you can do alone heads down type of work, where you don't have either acoustic, visual, and any other kind of distraction. Okay?
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The second main trend actually we're seeing is this push for diversity and inclusion. So diversity has been very strongly linked to innovation. And tech companies want to be on the leading edge of innovation, but they trail in their diversity metrics. So in their efforts, again, to be more diverse, they're implementing all kinds of wellness programs, they're paying attention to ambient belonging, all these principles that then quickly become successful, then that get adopted. The next one is what we call healthy systems, healthy people. So you need to make sure that the work environment that you provide is really healthy, but we're not just talking about individual health or what we would call fitness or whatever, or basic, services. Companies are considering well-being and organizational well-being and the impact that they have on their greater community. So, and that again is disrupting. It sounds like a really big trend, but creating these health and wellness spaces, meditation rooms, so on and so forth, we never created, and now manufacturers have come up with amazing solutions to fill that gap, right, and to provide meditation spaces. And then the last one is proximity matters. So we know that if you are on the same floor, you have a 95% chance of running to a coworker. If you're on 2 different floors, you have a 5% chance. And of course, you want those chance encounters. So we're seeing a lot more vertical circulation within spaces. to attract people, to entice people to move. Human beings are relatively lazy creatures. To entice people to move, we create destinations, at either ends of these staircases. Those destinations are work cafes, sometimes they're libraries, and so on and so forth. And again, a library space needs a very specific type of furniture because the furniture itself help connote that this space is a library, and because we know this culturally, we know that library means quiet, so we behave differently in those spaces. Or if you go to a work cafe, again, this amazing furniture that we have, booths, right? Sofas, they're at the right height to be paired with a table in a dining area. Large harvest tables actually help really build social interactions. And the most innovative teams actually have the higher level of trust and empathy. And dining around a table and knowing about each other's kids is huge for that. So all of these trends in general, they're what has driven the workplace to change, to evolve. And in that wake, furniture has followed.
So in saying that, so when your customers or clients are looking at revamping office spaces, are they looking at price? Are they looking at vanity? Are they looking at functionality? What are they looking at when they're considering budgets?
I feel all those factors are important.
I agree.
Although every customer does have a price. I've never worked on a project where there is no budget, but I would say the educated customer is most concerned with function. I don't know if you would agree on that. Then aesthetics. And then we also need to keep those two things in balance while managing the budget.
Agreed. I think it's interesting, though, going back to Annie, what we were just talking about. And one of the things as you were talking, I remember, I want to say maybe 5 years ago, how many people did we see running around the office with a power cord? How many people did we see in an airport with a power cord? Everywhere people were, right? So your point around how furniture evolves with what's happening in the space, I think that has been resolved. We see power, technology, usability in everywhere we sit, whether it's the harvest table you just mentioned, whether it's lounge seating that's now incorporated, whether it's your desk. And technology's changed too, but that was an important factor in them being able to work in those spaces. But then going back to the heads down space, what we're seeing now is a lot of new products coming out from our manufacturers to address that. And it's quite interesting and quite innovative. So it could be that we're just adding some felt to a booth, bringing some baffles down to help with some sound. It could be that we're bringing in, there's lots of different names out there, but we're bringing, these boxes, these phone booths, these mute boxes. They have all kinds of great names where, they started as single use. Now we're seeing them being used for 4 people. And they're completely enclosed. And so it's interesting to see as trends change, products, again, quickly being developed to support those needs. So
interesting.
Yeah, I wonder what the next trend will be.
Yes. Well, you did touch on space. And I think what's really interesting, how are your customers or your clients leveraging space a lot better, or when they're looking to design a space?
Right. So Annie touched on the workstations are smaller, but they're providing a lot more unassigned amenity space. And there's 2 kind of key areas that I'm recognizing that change in. And one is in the conference or the meeting rooms, the use of mobile tables. Perhaps they're a flip-top table, so they can be configured as a large conference table one day, but very easily converted to a training room or a lecture hall, or even just entirely pushed aside for more of a social setting. And the second area that a lot of my customers are really identifying with is the private office, specifically an executive private office, or just someone who doesn't happen to work in the office all that often. Because when they're not there, their office space is just wasted space that someone else could be using. So we've been specifying this particular type of private office as more of like a meeting table that is owned by a particular manager. And when they leave, they lock up their files, their personal belongings, and then this becomes a huddle room that anyone else in the office can use. With the addition of a TV screen, kind of like what we have here, it can be what's the word? Teleconference. Teleconference meeting room.
Right.
Yeah, or sharing screen. So if you're meeting with another associate, you're sharing screen.
So flexibility is really important.
Yeah, real estate is so expensive, so it's important to really get the most out of every square foot of that project.
I would agree.
We call that loose fit, long life.
Loose fit, long life.
So it's very, very important that you let the user define the space, and that you don't design it so much that the space defines who the user can be. So if you over design, you tend to limit the application. So that mindset of letting the space be user defined is what drives a lot. So when I was talking earlier about we build an intelligence in the design solutions that we deliver, that's one of the things that we're always conscious of, because often the end users will drive for a lot of specificity in the design, in solutioning, and we typically will coax them or drive them a little bit away from that, because we understand that the project will have a much longer life and much more usability if we build in that flexibility from day one.
I think as industry experts, our customers, whether they expect it or not, we should be educating them on how they can support. I don't remember the saying you just said. What was it?
So
live, use,
loose fit, long life.
Right. How can we support that? How can we educate them? Because again, depending on how often they're buying or how often they're changing their space, it really is up to us to say, here's some things that we see. Here's the benefit to your organization. And whether you're a designer, manufacturer, or dealer, it's really important that we're participating in that.
And just out of curiosity, how often are you seeing a changeover of space?
I find customers are constantly buying, one-offs, but in terms of a big project, I find the average is about 10 years.
I would agree with that.
It's tied to lease, right? Most leases now are 10 years. There are some small adjustments. So when we design a space, we typically recommend that the end users gather comments on what works, what doesn't work. But it takes people time to change and to adapt to new work environments. So typically we'll recommend, make note of everything, listen to what persists past the 3-month mark, and after 6 months, because that's the curve of adoption. After 6 months, what is still sticking or not working perfectly well and so on, we can work with you to adjust and adapt the work setting that is not quite working well or so on. Or perhaps, the culture of the organization has not quite adopted a more casual meeting style. So we'll come back and we'll transform a few environments to suit the end users. But it's a big shift. Often we're asking people to tolerate a lot of change, and people resist change because they understand a transition as a loss, and it takes them a while to understand what the gain is. And once they live through it and understand the gain, typically we have, from a before to after, we typically have a really, really high rate of adoption after the fact. And that's thanks to all the work that we do between ourselves as designers, manufacturers helping us find the right product, and then dealers helping us after the fact, coming in and adjusting those solutions.
Well, that was a great closing. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you, Annie, Jenna, and Sandra, for participating in this podcast today.
Thank you.
Thank you.